Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Nikki Anthony, and I want to welcome you to First May Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm super excited about this month because mental health is definitely a topic and an issue that is near to my heart. Mental health impacts us all in a variety of ways. Whether we have a healthy state of mental health or it's not so healthy right now, we're working towards healing and wholeness. So, I'm excited for our segments this month. I invite you to join us this month for 3 segments that focus on family mental health. Today, we'll start out with our kids because that is the heart of this organization. And we'll be talking about how to build resilient kids, right? But we also have a segment that will focus on women and wellness, our self-care, and how to engage in healthy self-care. And then we also will have a segment that focuses on men and acknowledging that men have mental health concerns also. Men cry too, that's the title. And what we are hoping to do is just expose the family to mental health, different issues that impact our mental health as a family. Because when one person's mental health is impacted, everyone that person is connected to is impacted as well, right? So we want to be our best selves. And we want to also offer strategies that help us to move into healing and move into becoming our best selves. So join us this month, all month, for these segments. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and also feel free to email us ahead of time of our sessions so that you can get those questions answered by the professionals that we are presenting to you this month. We have a really rich lineup. Today, you're going to meet Ms. Asha Harris. She has a master's in social work, and we're excited to have her. And I'll have her to introduce herself shortly. So as we get started, it's a little bit about the purpose of this segment for this month. I also want to share the mission of Little Hands, Big Hearts. Everything that we do, we try to remain mission minded. And overall, our goal is to develop little people into servant leaders. However, these little people go back into families. I say this very often. And so we want to make sure that we have programming and we have experiences that are tailored towards the whole family, because you can reach a child, but if you don't reach the people that are connected to that child, things are going to kind of fizzle out, and that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're all moving forward together. So with that, the mission of Little Hands Big Hearts is to develop little people into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good, through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community-based volunteering. With that, this Saturday, we have Serve Day. So I want to invite everyone to come out and serve with us. We'll be at 525 North Noonan Street, and we have postings all over our social media. We would love to have you. We are serving the unhomed and the transient, and we would love for you to come and serve alongside of us. We're collecting different items to give to the unhomed population: clothing, shoes, socks, snacks even, to make life on the go a little bit easier. So feel free to come down and join us at 11 o'clock this Saturday. All right, so we're going to jump into our segment. But before we do, the teacher in me has a little bit of a demonstration that I want to kind of intro the topic of resilience. So, and Miss Asha, she can clarify a little bit after I finish, since she is the mental health professional in this setting. So I have here a rubber band, and I want you to think of life inside of here, right? And so we all have experiences. All of us go through things, and basically, and she's going to come and clarify this some more. So I'm gonna just I'm gonna broach it. And basically, life happens to us, right? Say this in your life, you have a death, right? And without resilience, it's hard to bounce back. It's hard to recuperate from that. So, what we want to hopefully tell you and get you to understand today, for the sake of your children and building resilient children, is that even when life happens, we have enough tools and enough skill and enough wherewithal, strategies, that even when life stretches us to a point that we've never been, we have the ability to recoup and to bounce back and to go back to original form. That even when life happens, we can get back to a place where we can handle life and life doesn't do us in. So with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Asha Harris, and she's going to kind of clarify some things about that little demonstration, and then we'll move into our questions. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. So go ahead, Asha.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Nikki. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and to talk because mental health is near and dear to my heart as well. And so, with this being Mental Health Awareness Month, it feels great to be able to speak to the parents, to the children, and just kind of let them know how to be resilient, the strategies and the tools. And that demonstration was perfect. So just a little bit about me. I just recently graduated with my master's in social work from Walden University. I have my bachelor's in social work too. And so I've been in the field for about 3 years now. I've started off doing case management. I worked with children and families, helping them stay resilient, connecting them to resources, and just providing them with tools and strategies to get through the different challenges that they were facing. I also have done a little therapy, which is what I'll be getting to a little bit more now that I have my master's degree. So I am excited to kind of dig a little deeper into the problems that these children, that these parents and these families are facing, and kind of help them, provide them with the tools and the strategies to be resilient and to process the things that they're going through, and just kind of allow them to have the coping skills to also manage how they're feeling, their emotions, and again, just getting through these challenges. And so, like Dr. Nikki was saying with the rubber band, it looks different for all of us, but at the end of the day, we're bouncing back. We may experience grief, loss, or our children may struggle with body image, bullying, the academics, but at the end of the day, bouncing back is what it's all about. So we're here today to just talk about how we can get through, and how our kids can get through resiliency, remain resilient, and then how we can promote it and just encourage it within our families, within ourselves, so that we can also show and demonstrate our children what it looks like and what it means to be resilient as well. So thank you.
I love it, love it, love it. So we are first models of resilience, right? And that's usually how our children learn. They learn by what they see, not necessarily what they're told to do, right? So we have to be the model and the conduit for what resilience is, what it looks like, how to display it and demonstrate it in the time of hardship. And that's not to say it means like you put on the game face, right? That's not what it is. And we'll get more into that. Resilience is literally finding strategies to navigate hardship and not let hardship do you in. So we'll get a little more into that a little bit later. As we begin, I want us to define some terms. So 2 things that are connected to resilience are protective factors and risk factors. And all of us have risk factors. All of us have risk factors. But how many protective factors do you have to counter those things? So as we are starting, I would like for you, Asha, to define, we've kind of talked about resilience. So if there's a deeper definition, you can go into that, but also define what risk factors are and maybe give some examples, and then define what protective factors are. And we can go through examples of those as well.
Okay, absolutely. So resilience, the book definition, according to Merriam-Webster, the book definition for resilience is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. My definition of resiliency is basically overcoming adversity, overcoming your struggles, and again, just being able to bounce back. Synonyms for resiliency: strength, self-determination. So that's ultimately what resilience is. So the risk factor. So the book definition for risk factor is something that increases the risk. For me, it's just simply preventing. It is what prevents you from overcoming your stress or your struggles. And then so with protective factors, it's the opposite. The book definition for protective factors is conditions that help individuals cope with adversity. So to me, that just simply means something that helps you to easily manage your stress and your struggles. And I'll give examples of what each looks like. So risk factor examples would be like trauma. Trauma can, be a risk for you. Exposure to neglect and abuse, pre-existing mental health conditions. So, for those who may struggle with anxiety or depression, lack of support, just constantly feeling stressed, Even poor sleep, because sleep is important as well. Lack of physical activity. If, for those who abuse drugs or alcohol, that could also be a risk factor. Economic hardships. And also just like the social injustice piece too, experiencing discrimination. And so protective factors would be the opposite again of risk factors. So having that social support, having mentors in your life, if you are faith-based, having community, having a church. So those are just examples, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the risk factors, protective factors, and just resilience as a whole.
Awesome. And I just want to bring up something. We'll probably rehash it and reiterate it a little bit later. But having just one positive adult in your life is the biggest and the greatest and most impactful protective factor for you. So I want you to, and Asha, we'll kind of dig into this. If you can think of someone who was a protective factor for you growing up, one adult, and we'll talk about a little bit later, but just acknowledge, those people who stepped in moments when we needed that person, right? And, parents, it can be a myriad of people. It doesn't just have to be you. Sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's the lunch lady. I've seen coming out of education, I've seen women in the cafeteria be the person that helps the child to regulate when they become dysregulated. And so it does not have to be, people who we always suspect and we think it's going to be this person is the go-to. Sometimes it's the most unsung people that are the heroes in our children's lives. So keep that in mind. As we keep moving on, I think she kind of explained it, but I want to talk about what resilience isn't, right? I know I kind of broached it earlier, like saying it's not just you just trudge through and, you always got on your game face and put on a happy face, because that's not realistic. It's not realistic for us. So talk about what resilience isn't, because I love to give an example and a non-example for people.
Yes, absolutely. So resilience doesn't mean don't fail. So resilience is failing, believe it or not. You have to be able to learn from your failures. You have to be able to bounce back from failure, bounce back from adversity. So you must, you must fail. That's the only way we learn. And I always believe that was the stepping stone to success. So resilience, is basically it's not the ability to avoid hardship or avoid trauma, avoid heartaches, heartbreaks. So that's basically what resilience, that's what it isn't. And so everyone encounters challenges. So it's important that we all kind of learn what resilience is and what it isn't, so that we know how to navigate and bounce back from anything that we may experience in life at any stage. So, when we're just starting off, when we're babies, we're learning how to walk. We're walking, we're falling, we're grabbing things. We're just trying to, learn our way. That's being resilient. So resilience starts as little as, babies learning how to walk. Then we get a little bit older. We're learning how to ride a bike. We might fall, try again, keep pushing, keep going until we're successful. So that's failing, and that's overcoming that failure, learning how to be resilient through that experience. Then once we're in high school, maybe college, we're possibly experiencing some friendships, ups and downs with friendships, maybe body image, self-esteem. So that, that's a process in itself as well, and being resilient during that stage. And then transitioning into adulthood, you're experiencing careers, maybe relationships, kids, things of that nature. So just being able to pivot and make the mistakes, fail, and then learning from them. So that's what it's all about. And life has its ups and its downs. So just being able, like I say, pivot and just staying strong and resilient through your experiences.
So I love that word, because I think that characterizes resilience, being able to pivot. And I think that is a strength that a lot of people don't have. It's a strengths assessment that I did when I was in my program. And think it's called Strength Needs or something. I have to find it. It's like right here. So if I can grab it quickly, I will. But I invite people and I encourage people to do that for themselves and with their kids to find out what your strength is. But it also shows you where you may be a little weaker in terms of leadership qualities, right? And what I found was one of mine is the ability to pivot and to shift in a moment's notice because life comes at you very quickly and very hard sometimes, right? And so you can't be so staunch, in your stance and so staunch in what you think should happen that you don't know how to shift when a shift is needed, because you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to miss experiences that would better your life and better the lives of the people around you. You're going to miss out if you don't know how to pivot. So I love, love, love that word. Thank you for bringing that up. And parents, I just want to encourage you to dig into I don't want to say creating, but capitalizing on situations where your child has to think outside of what they thought was going to happen. Don't be so quick to fix everything that comes their way. Help them learn how to transition and navigate through hardship. That is what resilience is. Learning how to navigate it is not going to go anywhere. If you lose someone, that experience is not going to go anywhere. You still lost that person. How do we keep moving through that? Right? If you get the grade that you don't want to get, how are you going to keep moving through that? You don't get to stop because you made a C and you're used to making A's. That's not what happens in life, right? What are you going to keep doing after that? So I encourage you to get into a place, if you're not there already, of allowing your children to experience the hardship, the disappointments that life brings, right? When they fail. I think that's one of the greatest gifts my parents gave me. Like, okay, you ain't gonna always get the grade you want. What you gonna do afterwards? You gonna stop here, right? And I want you to think of it as in terms of like lifting weights. When you're trying to tone up or bulk up, if anybody who goes to the gym, for the gym rats out there, the only way that you build and get stronger and get bigger, buffer, leaner, toner, is through resistance, right? And your body has to build a level of resilience to keep fighting through the hardship, to keep pressing when you don't want to press anymore. When those muscles are weak, now we got to keep going. So think of it like that as well. What causes those risk factors that we talked about? And then how are protective factors developed and maybe utilized?
Okay, so getting into a little bit more of what causes the risk factors. So it starts early. So it can be how we're raised. It can be, within the family, neglect, family dysfunction, poor supervision, not being, just having the freedom to just kind of do what you want to do, engaging with the wrong crowd, wrong friends. Also, just within the community that we grew up in as well, having limited resources, not having the access to healthcare or the access to, quality education can be a risk factor. Violence, if our neighborhoods are violent, that can be a risk factor as well. Lack of opportunity, like I said, lack of resources. Also, just like I was saying earlier, one's mental health, that can also be a risk factor if you have the pre-existing mental health conditions. Also, just someone's personal values and their own personal beliefs can also just be a risk factor, just because of, how they think and just how they feel like they should react to the challenges that they face. And again, substance abuse, alcohol abuse as well. And so just kind of digging deeper into how protective factors are developed. So again, that starts early as well. So just like feeling heard, feeling seen within the home, when adults, make it a safe space for your children, for your families, they have that emotional support that they need. And they feel like they can handle everything because they feel that it is a safe space to come to you to talk to you about problems and receive that guidance. They feel valued and they feel confident when they have, again, that secure relationship with their parents, with their household, and that emotional support. Also, just social connections within the community. When our kids are involved in extracurricular activities, they have that sense of belonging. They have that support when they're in things like band, basketball, football, cheerleading, that provides them and helps develop the skills needed to face adversity. They're learning how to problem solve, which is critical in life. Like, you have to know how to pivot, have to know how to, sometimes you have to know how to think fast, just depending on the situation. So, they're learning how to problem solve, how to develop those solutions. They're learning how to communicate verbally and nonverbal. Their posture, their sportsmanship that they're learning in these extracurricular activities. They're just learning how to get through and how to be resilient. And like I said also earlier, faith-based. If you attend church, that's also a protective factor. A lot of people lean on faith, on their higher power, to get through challenges and get through struggles. So protective factors are developed just simply from the positive experiences starting early, access to resources, just who we are as an individual, our environment, developing those positive social connections, which helps to also develop the skills needed to overcome adversity.
So good. There we go. It's so good. So as she started out talking about the risk factors, what she named in a nutshell are ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. She talked about household dysfunctions. She talked about neglect, and she talked about abuse. And all of those are the three categories that were initially shown on the first iteration of the ACEs study. And I invite you, parents, to look up and look at the Philadelphia ACEs and to see the level of how expansive the adverse childhood experiences are for basically most of society, what those look like, and to maybe even count, because what research tells us is that if you have 5 or more ACEs that you do not address, 5 or more adverse childhood experiences that you don't address, you cut your life expectancy down by 20 years. So if your children has 5 or more of these ACEs, and that's why I encourage you to look at it, see for yourself, because you'll see that most of us have experienced, or we have these experiences as part of our life and our story. So we want to make sure that we're addressing those things and moving into providing and accessing those protective factors that keep us from being subject to the things that happened to us in our past. Some of those things were passed down generationally to us. Some of those things were afforded and given to us, right? We didn't do anything. Our mom had that issue. Our dad had that issue. Our great-grandparents, and it's not fair if someone doesn't choose to begin to walk in the healing. So I want to encourage you, look up that Philadelphia ACEs and see what your family may have as a risk factor, but then also start moving into finding resources and strategies and interventions and people that could be protective factors for you, because they are available. You don't have to stay in a place where life is broken and it hurts and you can't bounce back. That's a choice. All right. And hopefully it doesn't sound too callous, but it is. When you find out that there is stuff that's available to you, it does become a choice. All right. So how would a parent or a guardian or a loved one or educator, mentor, whoever, go about identifying those risk factors? How would they identify them and then move into protective factors? So affording those children a protective factors, how do we go through that process?
Yeah, so as a parent, talking with our children, just talking with them again, providing that safe space, so that they can come to you when they're feeling sad or when they're feeling anxious about whatever the situation is. Listening to them, showing empathy, and then also just providing them with support. Being open with our children, letting them know, like, hey, I went through this as well. When I was a kid, I also experienced, a friendship loss. And this is how I got through it. So if I could get through it, you can get through it. So just being human with your kids, letting them know that, encouraging them, letting them know that they can get through things, and that they can navigate through that difficult time. Showing them genuine love and just genuine care. without being, too judgmental, but just more so coming from a place of understanding so that they can trust you and so that they can come to you about anything.
Can I
And
jump in real quick and I'll have you to kind of expound on that talking point? When you talk about communication, one of the hardest things it is for parents to do is to listen non-judgmentally when the topic is something that you don't agree with. So how can parents engage in that quality listening with their kids and not become the bear in the room with their kids? So to encourage that strong, healthy, open communication.
Mhm.
Still be a parent. We don't want you to lose your parenthood in this, but we
Right.
do want to create a dynamic where no matter how hard the topic or the subject is for your child, they know that you are a go-to person. You're a safe person because they know you're going to listen before you judge, before you decide that you're going to discipline them and all of that. So
Mhm.
I know it's kind of not off topic, but can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, so I would think the most important thing is just remembering that your child is human at the end of the day. Remembering that your child is a child, but they're also a human. So they're going to want to try different things. They're going to see their friends doing certain things and they may, want to try it, but because you have provided that safe space for them, more than likely they're going to come to you first and, maybe talk through it with you. Or even if it is something that they're doing and they come to you about it, they're going to know that they can talk to you. So just making sure that when you are talking with your child and you're just remembering that they're human, and so just honoring that and then just knowing that, okay, well, at least my child came to me. I feel like for me personally, if my daughter came to me and she was explaining something that her friends were doing, and if she, for example, let's say my kid is in high school and her friends are, in relationships, they're doing certain things, and she come to me and talk about it. I would come from a place like, okay, my daughter is human. She's maybe developing some, hormonal factors there, whatever the case may be. So just kind of talking to her and just letting her know the risk that's associated with certain behaviors or certain actions, so that she can better understand the consequences behind things. So I think that's very important. Just remembering that your child is human and just kind of thinking back on your experience as a child, and just know and just remembering like how you would have wanted your parent to react or to respond to you. So that's very important there. And as I was stating earlier, just paying attention to your child's behavior. So if your child isn't wanting to, open up as much, just kind of, as the parent, just kind of digging deeper and just kind of paying attention to their behaviors. Are they isolating more? Are they in their rooms with the doors shut more? Are they more aggressive when they're talking to you, or just talking to others? Are their grades dropping? Are they isolating? Are they anxious? So these are things that we can pay attention to kind of identify the risk factors with our children, and also just the protective factors as well.
So good. So good. So thank you for letting me interject there. And I love how you just highlighted, think about who you wanted your mom to be in that moment, who you wanted your dad to be in that moment, who you wanted grandma and grandpa to be, whoever raised you, your caregiver. Who did you want them to be when you had those same questions? When they flew off the cuff and, popped you in your mouth, you know, how did you really want them to respond? So keep that in mind. And that's not to say that you don't, um, set boundaries and set expectations. That's not what she said. That's not what we're saying. It's, you can set all of those, but still be a good listener. I think you
Mhm.
get more information also when you learn to listen and not listen to respond, but listen to hear the heart of your child, to hear what they're saying, to hear the need behind what they're saying. Because, even if it's a behavior that they demonstrate, there's always a need attached to a behavior. So
Mhm.
keep that in mind and be who you would have wanted to have in that moment, right? So I want to kind of move into resilience and talking about whether or not it can be developed. I think we've already answered that inadvertently, but I do want to talk about ways that we can build resilient kids. in today's society, when we see our government is doing whatever, when we see that now it looks like, teachers may have the right to discipline our kids, when we see that there are certain things that we may want to access as far as college and post-secondary, and money is being taken away, when we see, so our dreams are being impacted. What's a way to build and to develop a resilient child? And we'll talk them through. If I have some questions, I'll jump in, but you can get us started.
Okay, sounds good. So as I was stating earlier, kids deal with a lot. They may deal with bullying, friendships, just adapting to a new space, a new classroom, a new school. Even when our kids transition from elementary to middle school to high school, each stage looks different, it feels different, and it comes with new worries, new stress. So just teaching our kids how to engage and connect with others, just showing them how to listen to others, how to communicate and empathize with other people. Also just community. When we show our kids how to help others, serving others, it can make them feel empowered. So just kind of showing them, the importance of serving our communities, maybe volunteer work, giving back, a few times throughout the year, or whatever that looks like for you and your family. Also, developing a routine could also be important as well, especially when our kids are smaller. But also just making sure you have that room for flexibility. But that consistency in a routine could be very beneficial and could provide that resilience that may be needed. Also just, being aware of what your child is exposed to. These days kids are into social media, they have Instagram, TikTok, and all of that. And that comes with a lot of comparison. So we have teenagers struggling with the body image and things of that nature. So, showing your kids that it is okay to take breaks from social media, or just kind of like limit the time that they're spending on social media, just to kind of limit their exposure to certain things. Also, another key factor would be self-care, which is very important to me. Sleep, rest. That's important. That time that we're sleeping, throughout the night, our brains and our minds are resting. And then when we wake up the next day, we're ready to just take on the world, because we have the proper rest that we need. Also, just our diet, healthy eating habits, moving our bodies, exercise, all of that plays a major and a key factor in how we handle stress, how we handle life. And so making sure that we prioritize ourselves and make time for ourselves can help us be resilient. Another key component would be setting like reasonable goals. So when your kids are at school, or even just home, and you're thinking about the next stages in life, the next chapter, just helping them kind of break things down into smaller chunks could make it a little bit more manageable for them, make it easier for them to process whatever it is that they're processing. When we have kids that are in high school, they're preparing for the next chapter, they're preparing for college, or maybe they're unsure of what it is that they exactly want to do. So kind of helping them break down, like, okay, let's look at this option. Let's break down the pros and the cons of college. Let's break down the pros and the cons of a local community college versus versus a university that's, out of the city or in a different state. Let's look at the pros and cons, the benefits, and just breaking things down into smaller chunks. And then the last thing that I can suggest regarding how to build resilience in kids and in people is also just teaching our kids about change, helping them accept change, helping them to understand that life is all about change. So just helping them see the positive in change, whether that's, like I say, going to middle school, going to high school, whether that's trying a different sport, developing new friendships, whatever that looks like for your child, just helping them to understand that change is a part of life. And then so teaching them early will help them be able to navigate through changes as they grow older.
So informative. Excellent, excellent. So I want to kind of backtrack, and I want you to, if you can, talk about uh, the importance of building like safe connections in this resiliency journey of developing kids. So as they're growing, they're moving, like you said, these transitionary stages, going from elementary to middle, very big transition there, and strong relationships, strong connections with the right kind of friends, with your parents in that transition are so key, um,
Mm-hmm.
because they're coming into a time where peer pressure is, tantamount basically. And so you have to know how to navigate that as a parent so you can help them learn how to navigate it as a child, right? So talk
Mm-hmm.
about the importance maybe of building strong connections during those, especially not only, but especially during those really big transitionary periods. And you can segue it into how it impacts us overall in our resilience journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, parents, it is important to connect and to have that community as well. Maybe having a trusted friend, or maybe connecting with your child school. I'm sorry, your child, like their teammates, their parents. Like if your child is in sports, connecting with their parents, connecting with other parents at the school, maybe being more involved within the school. I know most schools have like the PSA, or I'm sorry, the PTA. So where parents are involved in school, they know the teachers, they know the principal, they know the educators. So that makes it easier as well to talk to these people about any concerns that you may have regarding your child. Or they can provide you with resources as well if you're needing resources within the home, which affects the kid at the end of the day as well. So just building a healthy network, a healthy support system outside of the home or outside of your family, if you don't have that within your family. Looking into resources within the community. There's a ton of resources here in Jacksonville, and we can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, just looking into the resources within your local community, within your area, and just kind of seeing like what's available for you as a parent so that you can learn what to look for in your child, or just kind of learn how to help your child navigate through these different changes as well.
That was so good. So I love how you talked about relationships, and I'm gonna kind of move along the talking point of peer pressure. So you iterated earlier, like be mindful of what your kids are doing, but also be mindful of who your kids are connected to in
Mhm.
those transition stages. All of us change. You think about when you went from elementary to middle school, right? Everybody changes. So maybe those children who were best friends in elementary, maybe those best friends are not best friends in middle school. So just being mindful of who your kids are connected to and seeing if they're on the same path as what your children are on. They can be best friends in one stage. That doesn't mean that in the next stage they're going to still be best friends. So helping your children to navigate those changes as well, like she said, navigating when change happens, because that can be hurtful. That's daunting to think that me and this person been friends since we were 4 years old, and then when we get to age 11 and 12, now we're not friends anymore. That's hard. That's a hard navigation. So helping them to navigate those changes, I think, is really important, especially when you're talking about the relationships that they have, because relationships are very pivotal and they change a lot in our lives. I also want to talk about embracing like our healthy thoughts. You talked about that earlier, so if you could kind of just highlight a little more, because what happens when we have these risk factors, these adverse childhood experiences, if we don't deal with them, what they do is begin to change parts of us, right? So you start seeing the world differently, you see yourself differently, and all of that in conjunction to things that already happen naturally, like adolescence, the adolescent stage. You start going through these changes anyhow. So now you add on the fact that now there's protected risk factors that need to be addressed, right? So if you talk about just learning how to deal with like mindset and the resilience built into that when you learn to handle different things mindset wise, if that makes sense. Hopefully, I just.
Yeah, yes. So like embracing your healthy thoughts and embracing your mindset. So just kind of learning healthy coping mechanisms. So that's a key factor there, and like having that positive outlook on life. Learning healthy coping mechanisms. How do I navigate through these? How do I handle challenging moments in my life as a kid or as a parent? What can I do to stay present and mindful? Having hobbies. So that's very important. So it could be as simple as just, going for walks every day, every afternoon, after work, after school. That can be a mindset shift in itself. It can provide our mind with some rest, and so that you're not thinking too much on the negative, or not as anxious or maybe even depressed or whatever it is that you're feeling at the moment. But walking, exercising, painting is one of my favorites. I love to paint. It just allows me to just express myself. So painting, we have kids who like to dance. So just whatever hobby or whatever it is that you really enjoy doing, just trying to figure out how you can incorporate that into your schedule, to just be mindful and just have that moment to just take a break from reality for a little bit. Also just learning how to like focus on your future goals, being optimistic and being hopeful for the future. But also maintaining flexibility, because things can change. And I know when, like, sometimes as kids or as teenagers, we're wanting to do things in the future, and then it doesn't go that way, and then it causes us more stress. So just being flexible and just kind of understanding that our journey may look different, things may change along the way, but just being hopeful and just being optimistic that whatever journey you go on, it will be a good journey, and things will always work out for you. So just being hopeful and optimistic, and then just having like hobbies to help you balance out too. So
Love it. Love it. So I love that you talked about goals, because we actually, as an organization, set goals. I had our students to set goals. And so this week was our review week of how did you work towards those goals? What were your steps? You had to come up with tangible steps, and those were your objectives, basically. So you can have your overall goal, your objectives, but those are key. And I think objectives, especially when kids are little, are very important, because we tend to only see big picture. And when you have no steps in between now and the big picture being accomplished, it's hard to understand and wrap your mind around why you might not have accomplished the way you wanted to accomplish. So I just want to reiterate to everyone how important goal setting is in developing resiliency, because those little objectives in the middle are your resilience steps. If this one don't work, it doesn't work, that's okay. All we got to do is drop back and punt. We got to revamp and keep it moving, right? That doesn't change the goal overall. All it changes is how I attain the goal. I know that this doesn't work. Again, it's a failure, but it's a failure forward, right? So I love that you just kind of open our eyes to the importance of goal setting. These are all things that we do organizationally, and I do them because I know, as a former educator, the importance of, if you want to get from here to there, there are certain things that you have to have. You got to be resilient, because it's not going to be easy. If you're so far behind, talking from special education, if you're so far behind academically, behaviorally, like, we got to set some steps where you look like you are successful, where you see your own success. And it's not necessarily going from an F to an A. If you just go from an F to a D, that's still progress, right? So learn how to see success for what it is. I love that. As we are, and we're getting ready to wrap up soon, how does resilience, or the lack of resiliency, translate into the classroom for those parents who have students who have not necessarily developed in the way of resilience? What could that look like when they get in the classroom and they don't achieve like they wanted to, or they don't get the accolades that they thought they deserve? What does that turn into? What does it look like?
Yeah, so lack of resilience in the classroom can be your child acting out, not behaving the way that they should, avoiding the teachers or avoiding their peers, frustration, just being angry and upset about whatever it is, their grades not being what they want it to be, or just whatever it is in the classroom that they're dealing with. It can cause frustration or anger. possibly even lower self-esteem, and poor grades. And then resiliency in the classroom can provide a higher self-esteem, that feeling of accomplishment, of success. They would be, they're able to manage their emotions a little bit better, participating more because they have that confidence there as well. And so just from the standpoint of teachers within the classroom, what they can do to build upon that resiliency in the classroom for their students. They can celebrate their students' progress, like you said, from an F to a D. That's progress. Encouraging that healthy and that growing mindset, modeling what resiliency looks like, also just providing opportunities to reflect, because sometimes we don't even realize, we're not being resilient at that moment. So just kind of reflecting on, okay, what did I do? How did I handle that? How did I respond? And, how can I respond the next time? So that's all some important factors there in what it looks like in the classroom.
Love it. Love, love, love. So we're getting ready to end. So if you have any questions, make sure you have thrown them in the chat and we'll get them answered. But I want us to end with maybe sharing a few resources regarding resilience, protective factors, risk factors. Again, I encourage you to look up the Philadelphia ACEs and look up, it's a visual and it looks like a community. It's got like a tree, it's got some underlying factors, and it has like a weather symbol on it. And I want you to look at that. That's my resource that I'm encouraging you to look at, and to see how many your child has experienced, how many are part of your child's story, because that should give you a good indicator of why it is necessary to develop resilience. All right. So do you have any resources that you would recommend? And then also we'll end on identifying our one adult. And if you have more than one, feel free to share. But that one person that you would like to acknowledge that was a protective factor for you in your youth, your young age. She's younger than me, but in your young age. So share your resources, and then we'll get into the last part.
Okay. So I have a few resources that I have used and that I am familiar with. So one is the National Alliance on Mental Illnesses. So this is a resource for adults and children. They have a ton of resources within that website. They have support. They offer support groups, just articles if you want to read and learn a little bit more about just mental health as a whole. We also have a local chapter here in Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, if you are located here in Jacksonville, but they are located within the entire country. So wherever you are, feel free to look into that. Again, that is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And then we have locally here in Jacksonville, we have the FundForFirstCoastKids.com, which provides a lot of free community-based events. They have just local events, whether that's knowledge-based events for parents or for kids, or just free activities for the family. So that's, again, a way to be resilient, to create that family bonding experience, when you have the opportunity to do so. And then I have a agency here for parents or for mothers who may want to tap into their trauma or their risk factors, and kind of learn a little bit more about who they are, understand who they are, so that they can be the best the best parent. And that is Her Hope Behavioral Health. So that's also another great resource for those who may be looking to like therapeutic resources, and want to have that one-on-one and just kind of talk through like their struggles and everything as well.
Love it. Love, love, love it. So I'll get those in the chat, and I'll to make sure that you know those websites and how to find them on social media. And I also want to add one, if you're just looking just for resilience, it's called the Center for Resilient Children. And that's www.centerforresilientchildren.org, no spaces. And I'll throw that in the chat as well. And there's a Dr. Nefertiti Pointer, and she is an expert on resilience and building resilient children. So I invite you to look at her YouTubes. I think she has videos on YouTube, different if you subscribe, they have activities that they share. They have trainings that they offer. I think most of them are paid, but they do have some free trainings as well that you can engage in. So those are just a few resources. Asha, if someone wanted to, and you do not have to share, but if someone wanted to contact you to ask more questions, as on your professional opinion on things, is there a way that they could find you, whether it's social media, an email, or anything like that? And if not, it's totally fine.
Yes, so I can be contacted on my business page, which is on Instagram, A Mother's Journey. So that's AMOTHERSJOURNI. I help mothers not feel alone. I provide resources and things of that nature. So if you're just wanting to connect, wanting to talk, I'm available. I can also be reached via email, a mother's journey at gmail.com. But the best way would probably be through Instagram. Just shoot me a message, direct message me, and I'll love to connect.
And her page is dedicated to her journey as a mom, and her baby girl is Journey. So she's a cute little thing. So check her out, follow her, subscribe, all of that. But if you have questions, make sure you reach out. We try to always bring you all tangible resources, things that you can use in real time. I don't want to give you something so off the wall that, it's not even worth you investing in or looking into, right? So you have someone who is saying, if you have questions, holla at your girl. So holla at your girl, right? And you see she is a wealth of information. And I know she has a heart for moms and for children. So utilize the resources. So as we close, as I shared, I would like for you to share, if you've thought of someone. If you haven't, then I will share mine, and then you can share also. And just one person and if it's more than one, feel free to share more than one, but one
Mhm.
person at least that you felt was a protective factor in your early childhood. And it can be any stage before 18 and before.
Okay, yes. I do have multiple, but I'll just share one, which would be my grandmother. She was always there, like whenever I was having challenges. I would just go to her. She was always there to listen, and just encourage me. She always like pushed me as well to just be a better me and to just, again, she pushed me, she prayed over me. And so that kind of just showed me how to be resistant. I'm sorry, be resilient. Be resilient, overcome, the struggles that I was facing during those times, and just to always, pray, and that's how I get through life. And so I still utilize those skills even now as an adult. So I'm very thankful for what she instilled into me as a young kid. So I'm grateful for that experience.
Okay. So I have, like you, a myriad of people that were available to me in my childhood. And I probably will share more than one. I won't be long. So one of them was, I don't have any natural born sisters, but she was my big sister through church and through, she kind of transcended church once I got older and I went to college. Like just little things that she did. Her name is Net. And so shout out to Net. Net was one of my protective factors when I went to college. She was the person that bought me linen for my dorm room and just made those small achievements seem so real in the moment. Like someone to say, you're going in a dorm. So she bought me, sheets for my room. She got me snacks and all these different things that I didn't think of. I'd never been to college before, but someone who invested in me in that way. She was there. My mom passed away when I was in 11th grade. She was at my graduation. She was at my baccalaureate service. So she's one of my protective factors. My aunt, my aunt Eva, she's probably watching. I think she's watching. She is another protective factor. This is my mom's sister. She looks just like my mom. Like people think that if they didn't know my mom passed away, they think she's my mom. And so she looked just like my mom, but another protective factor that I had growing up in terms of there was still an expectation on me, even though hardship happened. Like it was never okay for me to not become who my mom said, you're going to be this person. My dad said, you're going to be this person. She was another layer of a protective factor for me past my parents that said, no, you're still going to become, I'm still going to hold you accountable. So another person. 11th grade, my track coach, Coach Rob, shout out to Rob. Rob was, um, he kind of knew, I guess, our family situation when my mom was diagnosed with cancer in ninth grade, and he knew all those things. And so he was a person that he was the dean of the school. He wasn't my teacher, he was my track coach, but he kept me on track in school. I found out later, years later, he kept guys away that he knew were no good for me. They say, and so little things like that, they make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't harp on too many. It's way more than that. It's way, way, way more than that. And I want to say, parents, those protective factors are for you also, right? It doesn't just stop with kids. Am I wrong or right, Asha?
No, you're absolutely right. Yes.
So, parents, who are your protective factors, even now in your adulthood? Who are the people that you know you can lean on to keep you on track, to help you navigate hard times and hardship, to help you build your own level of resilience and the next level of resilience when life gets a little harder than it was before, right? So, just keep in mind that we're always growing, we're always changing, and the same things that we want for our kids, we have to first want them for ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. It's okay to want those things. It's good that you want those things. Then you become an ongoing model of change and development and growth for you, for the people around you. So that's all. It's been a really good session. We hope that you got something out of it. Aisha, do you have any final words?
I just want to encourage everyone out there that's watching, that's listening, just to continue to, push through. Life isn't easy. Life is a journey. It's a roller coaster. We're going to have our ups and our downs, but just keep pushing, keep striving, and everything will always work out. So.
So I don't have anything else. Remember, we have Serve Day this Saturday. Feel free to join us. If you have any questions about it, you can email us, littlepeopleserving@gmail.com, or you can shoot us a text, 904-990-7671. I would love to hear from you. We will even more love to see you. Bring some stuff with you to serve. Like she talked about, altruism, serving, service is all a part of building resilience as well. So even when you don't see the intentionality behind what I do with this organization, I promise it's there. This is all research based. I don't have anything that's junk. So keep that in mind. All right. So we love you. We love you. I do love y'all. And I thank y'all for joining us. I thank you. I appreciate you, Aisha, for joining us and being a part of this session and sharing your expertise. And congratulations on your recent graduation. And we expect great things from her. We'll keep in touch and keep tracking your journey, a mother's journey. So with that, we just encourage y'all have a great evening, and we'll see y'all later.
Yes, see ya.